Check 1 2. to the City Commission budget, what are you calling this?
Hearing.
The first budget hearing dated September 8th, 2021. This is the first of a series of budget hearings that the City of Fort Lauderdale will have, and it's hosting the meeting in both virtual and in-person format. For additional information on how to view or sign up to speak at one of our meetings, please go to the following website. It has changed, so please try to listen. www.fortlauderdale.gov/City Commission Meetings. I'll repeat that. www.fortlauderdale.gov/City Commission Meetings. You got that? Now, to help ensure decorum, we ask that you please abide by the following guidelines. Please refrain from any behavior that is disruptive, distractive, profane, or inhibits the meeting in any way. While you are on the phone waiting for your opportunity to speak, please mute the meeting broadcast on whichever way you're listening, FLTV, YouTube, Comcast, or AT&T, to avoid delays in the broadcast. I will call upon you when it is your turn to speak and also notify you when your time has expired. City staff has automatically added speakers in the to listen only mode, and you will be unmuted to speak when recognized. Once you have completed speaking, you will be muted and may either hang up to exit the meeting or stay connected to listen to the remainder of the meeting. Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Vice Mayor Moritas.
Here.
Commissioner Glassman.
Here.
Commissioner McKenzie. Commissioner Sorensen.
Here.
Mayor Trentalis.
Here, so we have everybody here. So start with Budget 1, an ordinance amending Chapter 28 of the city's Code of Ordinances for increases to tapping charges, water rates, master meter charges, service availability charges, sprinkling charges, and fire service charges. Mr. City Manager.
So good evening, Mayor and Commission. I'll have a brief presentation on each of the budget items tonight. This first item has less of a script and more of a presentation. As you know, the city is contemplating the ability to build its own water plant, a new water plant to replace the 5-ash plant. There's a couple of different options there. One is to look at what the debt payment is needed to borrow $432 million over 30 years, and that number is $26 million. In order to bring our fund to a level that it could stand the capacity of that $26 million, we have really two options. One is we can wait closer to when we need to issue the debt and have a one-time adjustment in the rate that would be fairly large, in the order of 30%. Or what is recommended tonight is more of a smoothing rate where there's a 5% increase over the course of 7 years that would be able to then issue that debt when we're ready to build that water plant. To give you some idea, in 2022, what that would do to the average water bill is it would increase it $5.38 a month, leading out to 2026, where it would increase a monthly water bill of $7.21. So this builds slowly over time. It will be held in reserve. It will be held for the purposes of building a new water treatment facility. And if you all support it, we would need to put this in place now so that we have sufficient ability to borrow $432 million when we need to move forward with that plant. At this point, it's considered to be fiscal year 2026. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions of the City Manager?
I have a couple. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Chris,
Vice Mayor?
what happens if we decide to go with a P3?
So at the time and place that we would decide to do that, then our whole debt structure changes, and we would probably re-employ the same company that we used to model this debt structure for us, and bring back to you modifications that would then meet a new availability payment as opposed to a debt service payment. So it would change, but there's a lot of factors that would go into how it would change. So I can't say it changes in this fashion exactly, but we'd bring something back.
Okay, but for now, you at least need us to vote so we can move forward.
Until such time as the
Current
commission says we're going forward with a P3, I think we need to continue to, what I've always said is control our own destiny, and that's to plan for us having to build our own plant around year 2026.
And do we know when we, or can anticipate that vote may be coming so we can discuss how to proceed?
So I think you're talking about the unsolicited proposals that have come in dealing with the water plant.
Yes.
That deadline for competition just ended earlier this week.
Okay.
We're reviewing what was submitted at this point, which is 4 proposals. And I do not have an answer for you yet as to whether or not I believe all 4 are complete.
Sure.
But we will need to obviously do the due diligence that's required under the statute before we come back and talk to you about that. And so I would anticipate that to be a fall discussion.
Okay, so all 4, we have 4 proposals, and did they all have to submit the extra, was it 90,000 to do a financials?
So along the way, one of the initial financial analysis we've done on the first 2 proposals cost in that neighborhood of 90,000, and as you know, they have to pay that
Right.
review fee. So the first 2 that were submitted before the deadline the second 2 that came in on the deadline, that was earlier this week, has not submitted it yet, but will have the opportunity if they want to stay in the process.
Okay, so all 4 will need to complete it if they want to be considered by the commission.
I think they all 4 have to have the same level of review so that they can all be compared equally, because
Okay.
otherwise you don't have an opportunity to compare one against the other.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Okay, so thank you. So that's possibly, that will come. Can you explain, what's the tapping charge? Is that,
I think that's more in the title than it is in the actual content of what this item does, but that's in the charge that it would cost to take a new residential or commercial tap into our water system.
okay,
That action of tapping into the water system actually has a fee attached to it. That's not what's being amended in tonight's action. That's just a title that goes along with this ordinance, because the rate structure is in the ordinance and the ordinance has this title.
okay, so what I'm thinking about tapping also, does this have to do with the separate irrigation line as well? Like there's a fee associated for neighbors to put in that separate
That would be
irrigation?
a new tap into the system, correct?
Do we have the same ordinance in place? Probably, because I think we voted on it, that neighbors can prorate that cost if they choose to put in a separate irrigation line?
We will work with neighbors individually so that that becomes a doable thing for them if they want to do it.
Okay, if they choose to go forward. Okay, because I know water bills are big in my district, so I just want to make sure I understand. Okay, I see also master meter, and I know, all districts.
Would you please stop saying your district?
Yes.
Water bills are high throughout the city. And I think this is how we got here. And I'm not going to sit here anymore when we say my district when it's our city. Water bills are high throughout the city. It's something I've been talking about for 8 years. You got here a few years ago and you started talking about it. But if we all talked about it and looked at what we're about to do tonight with another, I call it tax, we're going to call it assessment. I'm going to ask questions, but just please, when we talk about it, it's high water bills in the city of Fort Lauderdale, with all due respect, Commissioner.
Yes. No, I do agree, and I'm sorry. I only kind of keep up with the neighbors that email me in my district. But I do understand our water bills are high, unless you have the separate irrigation line, which keeps the bills down. Okay, so the master meter, Chris, and this probably has nothing to do with it, but I'm just wondering, when are we going to have the conversation about the AMI, installing the meters? I know there's a pilot right now looking into the automated meters.
That project will be subject to approval of this budget that you all are considering tonight, and we'll have to consider again on the 13th of September. Dollars to implement that over a period of 2 years are in the budget if it approves as adopted.
Okay, super. So in the budget, the whole citywide project are putting the AMI on all water meters throughout the entire city, not just the pilot program?
That is correct.
Is in the budget if we approve it. Okay, that's good. Thank you for including that. That's it.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Yeah, so the pilot program is, we're already putting these meters in, am I correct?
I think we chose, and I might have this wrong, but I think we chose 4 different models and are testing them out to see if we ultimately go with one, which brand we've tested and has seemed to work the best for our city.
Oh, okay. So let's go back to, this is BGT 1210840. What you're asking of the commission is to allow you to assess tax or whatever we want to call it, in addition to the 3% that we're already assessing or taxing the ratepayers. We're asking to add an additional 5% to that for the next 5 years in case we want to build a water plant. Am I correct?
If we choose to build a water plant, we need to do this, yes.
I
Otherwise, I
think
don't
you
know how we
answered
do
the
it.
question before when Commissioner Moritas asked, if we go to P3 route, this doesn't come into play. I don't know what's our urgency to move forward with this. Me personally, whether I'm the ratepayer, which I am on several properties, I'd rather have this put in front of me at the time that we are going to do it, especially when this commission and in the previous commission, one commissioner, now mayor, this was a big issue. And here we are 5 years later, and we haven't moved and built anything or done anything with our infrastructure, meaning for me was always the pipes under the ground, never 5-ash, which I still question 5-ash each and every time we bring this issue up, because based on all the studies and things that we did, it talked about the quality or the water coming out. It never said anything about the physical building. And I'm just trying to figure out what's wrong with this building that we have, that we got to go out and bring on this enormous debt to our residents while we're going through this extremely tough time with our infrastructure. I mean, only because it's blowing up, and we have to address it. So I tend to trend a little carefully and not take anything from my other colleagues when it comes to putting something in the hands of the ratepayers saying that it's assessment or tax. So I really don't feel comfortable moving forward with building a building. And I can cast my vote. I probably won't win it, but I do want to be on public record to say that, you know, I'm against building a new 5-ash because 5-ash works. Am I correct?
Actually, can I comment on that?
I really want to staff.
Okay, after you finish, I want to comment on that.
So 5-ash delivers clean, safe drinking water today. It does not use a technology that is used today that produces the quality of drinking water that newer technology does. It uses a lime softening technique as opposed to a membrane technique. So the water that comes out of the tap, while perfectly safe to drink and perfectly acceptable, doesn't sometimes match the clarity standard that a water consumer has today. We did, as you know, Commissioner, we did a report with an engineering firm that came back and said that really the 5-ash plant was at its useful life and would take a significant amount of continued work and rehabilitation to keep it functioning, or we could pursue the building of a new plant with today's more current technology, very similar to what we have down at Peel Dixie.
Because, I mean, we've been talking about this since I came onto the commission. I'm about to term out, and we're still talking about it, and it's going to take us another at least 5 to 10 years to get there. So obviously that the building, the structure I'm referencing, Mayor, works. It's what's coming out of there is what's questioned. And even if we do move in the direction of a new building, structure, or facility, my concern has always been the piping, which we read about daily or we hear about daily, that it's breaking, blowing up. And if we're going to build a new, what was that number you used for?
$432 million.
$432 million building, and the day we come online and we bring this new drinking water on, it's going to go through those same rusty pipes that are bursting and breaking and blowing up. How's that quality of water going to be any better than the quality of water that we're getting out of it now? Because it's that vehicle between the ratepayer or resident and the facility where the water is being housed, in my opinion, is where we're going to have a problem with still what's coming into your homes.
I guess the only response I'd have to that is that we continuously are replacing water mains. For example, tomorrow night you have a Port Condo water force main project, $1 million project on the budget and the purchasing item that you'll be hopefully approving. We will have those projects and continue to have those projects over the next 5 to 6 years in hopes that we stay ahead of our aging infrastructure, at least keep it up. So we do water main projects, and we'll continue to do water main projects.
'Cause I would rather see the money in the ground than in the air, for lack of a better terminology. You know, it's like having a water cooler in your home. They come in each week and they give you another jug to put in there. But if something's wrong with that container that it's going in and going to be distributed at the tap, the water going in is no better than what you're putting it into. I understand the structure. I get all that. What I don't get is when we deliver it to the homes, it's the same rusted infrastructure that was in question way back when you were district commissioner, way back when I was a newbie sitting in this seat. And I know we talked about we're going to get to it, but I just don't see us putting the horse before the cart. So tonight, I really wanted to talk about it. I didn't want this to go again because I know I'm the minority in voting up here. I get that, and I'm okay with being on the losing side. But what I'm not okay with is when I tell a ratepayer, this is what we're doing. I want to make sure they understand all the ramifications, all that I understand. When we do this, I'm going to obviously vote no for it because I don't believe that we're there to do this. But by the same token, and it may not happen while I'm here. I mean, you've been here 18 years or so. I've been here 8.
It only seems like 18.
Yeah, but I mean, and we're still talking.
Let me respond to what you're saying.
So I still want to finish up because I got some more questions.
Okay.
And I wanted staff to answer the question. I wasn't taking away from your knowledge because you're the one that started this.
I'm the one that started this, so let me finish it.
So, but I got to vote on it, and I never believed in the building.
Convince you why you should vote yes.
When you do that, sir, you will be
I will do
all that
I will do
I
that.
think you can be.
Okay.
However,
Miracles do happen.
go ahead. I think that's and tapping. So you got tapping, and you said just a title, right? It doesn't mean anything because tapping to me as a contractor means every time I get one of your meters or one of your residents want a meter, they charge you in addition to what they're saying here, a tapping fee, which I think it runs like $1,300 plus in that whole little thing just to make sure your water is cheaper over here. So tapping might be one of 15 things in that big fee. I know you guys are trying to come back with an answer now, as you always do, but I buy them every day in all the cities, and they're expensive to buy a meter, which I think we should supply meters since I'm going to pay you for the rest of my life to tap into that meter and get your drinking water, but we charge to put the meter in, then we charge you to get water out of the meter, then we charge you every time we think about improving something with the water going to the house. So it's a never-ending leaky faucet, so to speak, when it comes to our water services. So if we're going to clear it up, I really would like to clear it up and make it very simple for the layperson or a 2-year-old can understand it.
Okay. Before I speak, does anyone else have any comments? Commissioner Sorensen, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to address those comments, but I'll defer to you to start. Thanks.
Okay.
Mayor,
Yeah.
how much a year do we spend on repairs at 5-Ash?
I don't know the answer to that.
We could find it, but I don't.
That's off the top. But while we're trying to figure that out,
That's a good question, but
I'm good with
it's a
that.
good question. But
and when we do it, let's look at every.
it's tens of millions.
No, but listen. When we're not, the other day we went online with 5-Ash. Where did we get water from?
We went offline with Peel Dixie. We got water from 5-Ash.
Okay, so let's find out wherever we're getting water from. Let's find out what maintenance we do.
75% of our water from
Right, if 5-Ash.
25% of our water from
Let's find out the maintenance on all of it before we just compare one.
Well, let me
without
just
the other.
let
Okay.
me respond to what you're saying.
Okay.
You know, you said that it works, and why do we have it's running now? Why do we have to spend the money to replace it? And that's the exact philosophy that got us into trouble with the force main sewer line that we just now completed. It's the idea of kicking the can down the road and saying we don't need to do it now. We can save money. Let's not assess our ratepayers any more than we have to because everything's working now. Yet, several years ago, we tasked the company called Corolla Engineers to come back and do an analysis of our water treatment plant. And their response to us, amongst other things, was that that not only was the useful life of this facility come to an end, but it is on the verge of, quote, calamitous failure. When you hear phrases like that, it makes you say, what are we doing? Why are we holding back? Why aren't we doing the kinds of infrastructure investment that the city needs to do? So when this new commission took place and the new administration was hired, we tasked the administration to come up with solutions on how to best become a more resilient and responsive city to the ratepayers and the people that come visit our community. Too often we hear from the hoteliers that the water in the bathtubs is yellow. People are afraid to drink the water. And also keep in mind that we are in the middle of a hurricane zone. If a category 3, 4, or 5 hurricane were to ever hit us directly, and we've been very lucky these last 20 years, if any hurricane of that magnitude were to hit us, we would be without water. Our water treatment plant would collapse. We would have no water, not for an hour, not for a day, but for weeks. So the idea is to anticipate these problems, try to correct them in advance so that our people can know that their government leaders are doing the right thing and that they're planning for the future and they're not waiting for another calamity like we just suffered with our sewer pipe to happen again. We owe it to the people of our community to invest in infrastructure. Hey, we're investing in infrastructure at all levels: stormwater, drinking water, sewage, pipes, primary, secondary, tertiary. This continues to happen throughout the city. And this is just part of an overall program. And how do we pay for it? Unfortunately, we have to pay for it through increasing our rates. Now, if you look to the attachment to BGT1, you'll see that Fort Lauderdale is far from the most expensive. It's right in the middle. Davie, $116.26 versus Fort Lauderdale, $76.34 for the same amount of usage. So Davie, Wilton Manors, Oakland Park, Hollywood, Parkland, all exceed what we charge. So I'm not saying we're the cheapest on the block, but we aren't the most expensive, and yet we have a responsibility to our over 200,000 residents and multiple thousands of visitors, millions every year, to make sure that our infrastructure is in place, it works, that our businesses can continue to function, and that people feel safe in knowing that not only will there be clean water coming out of the tap, but that it will continue to come out and not have any interruption. Remember when we had that one accident a couple of years ago when the contractor broke into the water pipe? We were without water for one day. I thought that the whole city was going to fall apart because everybody was so concerned. Every business, restaurant, hotel, homeowner, where's my water? Imagine having that circumstance for weeks and maybe months if our 5-ash treatment plant were to collapse as a result of a direct hit by a storm. Just look at what's happening in New Orleans. Just look at what's happening in other parts of the country where they get direct hits. We need to think for the future, and that's what this is all about, Commissioner. And so I hope you can join the rest in saying, I'm a future-oriented commissioner. I want to do the right thing. I don't want to kick the can down the road, and let's work together and make this happen.
And thank you. You gave me some facts that I knew already because I was a part of all of that. I'm not running a race with the other cities so that I can be the cheapest or the most expensive. I want to be the most efficient in whatever it is that we decide to do. I wasn't on the commission. I don't like blaming other commissioners when we stopped maintaining all of our facilities, not just water and other things. We stopped maintaining Lockhart Stadium. We stopped maintaining City Hall. We stopped maintaining some of the buildings we used to have right over here. We even took those buildings and we traded them on the market for a piece of land north and a piece of land over here. And now today, the same pieces of property that we traded just before I came on now on the market for 3 times the value it was when we owned those properties, just contiguous to us next door. So I'm always thinking about the future. And I didn't make those decisions, but now that I'm up here making decisions, I have to look at the facts. I have to go with my gut feelings, and I want to just talk about some comments you made. If we were to get a 4 or 5 category hurricane here, we wouldn't just be worried about water. If you look at New Orleans, probably one of the hardest hit places in the history of hurricanes, and those levees, those levees they have there, they spent billions to reinforce them and make sure they work. And every time there's a storm that heads that way, which it seems like every time there's one out there in the swirling, it ends up there, and they have the same problem with water.
Did you notice that the levee in New Orleans
They
actually
still
stood up?
They still have problem with flash flooding and water. So let me
Stood up.
let me finish. But when you put
you
these kind of
invest in
statements out,
infrastructure, it works.
I want to invest in. I do want to invest in infrastructure, and I have. Just because I don't vote for it doesn't mean I don't believe in it. I don't believe in the assessments we do, because our water rates are one thing, but our assessments are another. So if you let me finish talking about the hurricanes, we're going to be looking for electric, like they are in New Orleans right now, like they are in New Jersey, like they are in Annapolis, Maryland, like they are in every Mississippi, and all those towns got hit. It's not just the water that they worry about being off for one day. We do testing here in Fort Lauderdale, and we'll send a notice out, and we'll say your water's going to be off for 4 or 5 hours. And we can handle that. Except in a hurricane, we don't plan for the water to be out, but if it's out, I think most Floridians, especially in South Florida, we're prepared to be out of water, out of food, some cases out of shelter, out of electricity, at least for a couple of weeks. This is why you go on the news and we sit at our command center, we say, have enough supplies for 2 weeks. We don't say one day, so I don't want to use this type of analogy to discourage folks. I really want us to do the water plant. But I'm more concerned about the piping that the water is going to go through, which that's what we experience with the sewer. It's blowing up because it's old galvanized piping or concrete stuff in the ground that hasn't been replaced or repaired. If you go back to 1, 2, 3 commissions, I think you were on that commission, I could be wrong, we had our own road crews out there replacing broken pipes, doing it continuously. We got rid of those people. We got rid of that heavy equipment, and we stopped maintaining our own system. This is how we got here. Now, yes, it's 2 commissions later, and we're looking at how to address it, but no one's even talking about putting road crews back out there. So when I do have that spill out there, I would hate to use Rio Vista as an example right now because it's such a distorted information because of how we did it, but we would have had our own crews out there addressing the blow up. But when we downsize and we decide to do it differently, and that's okay. It's okay for us to do things differently. But no one's talking about putting our road crew back together. And where we could continually go out and replace miles of piping, with our own crews who are more than qualified to do so. But these are some of the things that concern me. This is why I don't feel comfortable moving forward with assessing someone right now out of the box, and we don't know, how soon we're going to get there. I'd rather cross this hill when I get there. I think we need to do something, but to start assessing the residents right now is what I'm struggling with, Mayor. So that's my deal.
All right, very good.
Mayor.
Yes, Commissioner.
Thanks. Just had some questions for Chris. Chris, how many miles of water and sewer lines have we replaced or upgraded in the past 3 years?
I'd have to calculate that. I don't have that off my head.
Yeah, it's significant. So this idea that we're not upgrading pipes is not accurate. And then the other question I'd have, Chris, is how many millions of dollars have we spent on upgrading our water pipes and our sewer pipes in the city last 3 years?
Hundreds of millions.
Hundreds of millions.
Mm-hmm.
That is massive. When was the last time in a 3-year period the city spent hundreds of millions of dollars upgrading water and sewer lines?
I don't have an answer to that.
Wow.
I agree with you all, but we did it because it blew up. We didn't do it because we came up here and said our plan is to start fixing Rio Vista, or fixing this or fixing that. But hold on.
Yeah, what?
No, but
I think we all collectively agreed to improve.
I think when we rebut stuff, we're so busy trying to avoid the obvious. which was it blew up and we had to address it. We didn't come out with a plan saying we're going to go out and fix 300 miles of water pipes or 300 miles of sewer pipe. It blew up.
Commissioner,
It
that's
blew
not
up. It blew
Yes,
up. when you and I
because
were sitting
people
here.
failed to plan for the future, Commissioner McKenzie. We're planning for the future now.
And that's fine. I see you do a very good job at planning over in Rio Vista with, and we need to talk about that. I wasn't here that day, but a lot of money was spent over there, or we're trying to change orders now on things that we didn't approve here. And tonight, I want to make sure that my voice is heard about these concerns, because it's not like it's my first time saying it, Mayor Trentalis, because I said it when you first raised these issues. You were the one on the previous commissions that made this an issue.
I did.
So I'm not backing away from that. What I'm saying is assessing the residents now before we build something and spending $426 million, and then I'm going to hand this to the seniors and hand this to the residents, and we're not there yet. So I don't want to start out just assessing folks. I want to know what it is we're going to do, when we're going to do it, and then put this piece out there to the public.
All right, well, I think we need to have the money in hand because we have 4 unsolicited proposals sitting on our desk.
So what happens if we do P3, like the commissioner asked?
That's a P3. Unsolicited proposals is a public-private partnership. So we have to have, if we gave the go-ahead next week, they're going to say, fine, where's the down payment? We have to have that money in hand to be able.
I thought a P3. Correct me now. I thought a P3 they pay for it. They pay for the capital improvement, and then we pay them on the back end.
Every P3 is different. We have to analyze each proposal separately on its own merits. We
If
don't
that's
have
true, you said we got to have money in the bank. So I'm trying to say,
money in the bank.
well, a P3, the way I understand it is, you get to go out to the private finances it, and then they charge us to buy the water back. They charge us for leasing the building and other things in there that are higher than my pay grade. But that's what a P3 is all about. So we don't have to go out initially and finance these projects for the capital investment.
I rely on the city manager's judgment on.
And that's why I ask. But see, sometimes when you ask questions and other people don't feel comfortable with it, they want to give their facts and opinions, because I don't want to hear anybody else's opinions. I want to know what staff is saying and what the professionals are saying, because if we had listened in the past, we won't be talking about what we're talking about today.
Yeah,
And
so listen.
I do credit you for cheerleading this one in, like you did. But I really want to make sure when I cast my vote, I don't want to assess the residents.
Okay.
That's how it started.
Anything else? There's no one has signed up to speak on this, so let's just move ahead. You want to call the roll?
We just need someone to introduce the ordinance.
Introduced.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought we had introduced the resolution, the ordinance. Excuse me.
An ordinance amending Chapter 28, Water and Wastewater and Stormwater, Sections 28-141, 28-143, 28-144, and 28-145 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, providing for increases to tapping charges, water rates, drinking meter charges, private fire service protection, and providing for an effective date. Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
No.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Darn you.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes.
It's the assessment that gets me, Mayor. You take that out of there, I'm okay with moving forward with the project. But
If you want to build things, you gotta have to pay. For it.
but people are coming to me talking about how expensive it is.
Come to
It's,
me.
it's not the water bill; it's the assessments.
It's everything. It costs money to build the infrastructure.
And I feel sorry. Maybe in the future, when I run for mayor or governor, they'll hold this against me.
What date is that?
There won't be when you.
Okay.
It'll be another lifetime. How about that?
I just want to mark my calendar.
No, but seriously.
All right, moving on to budget 2. Resolutions, okay. This is the first of 2 public hearings as required by law on the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District budget and millage for fiscal year 2022. The purpose of the hearing is to receive requests and comments regarding the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District's budget and to explain the budget and any amendments thereto. The public hearing is now open. The city manager will now present the proposed millage rate and the tentative budget. Mr. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District taxes the residents of this special district to provide security to their neighborhood. Their June 23rd, 2021 meeting, the district voted their millage at 1.0000 mil to generate the tax collection of $141,730 to support an operating budget of $137,000. This millage rate is 4.24% more than the rollback rate of 0.9593 mils and is necessary to maintain services for the Sunrise Key Neighborhood District. This concludes my report on Sunrise Key.
Okay, this is the time for anyone in the public to speak or ask any questions about the budget. I have no one signed up. Do you have anybody else signed up for this? No. Okay,
I'll move the item.
the item's been moved. Commissioner McKenzie's introducing the resolution.
A resolution in the City Commission of the City.
Wait.
Commissioner Glassman? Yes. Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Introduce.
Hearing is now closed. So the tentative millage rate for the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District purposes will be 1.000 mil, which represents an increase of 4.24% over the rollback rate of 0.9593 mils. Now, someone please introduce. The resolution's been introduced by Commissioner McKenzie. Please call the roll.
A resolution in the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, adopting the tentative millage rate of 1 mil to be levied by the City of Fort Lauderdale for the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021, and ending September 30, 2022. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, so the resolution adopting the millage rate has now been approved. Now, will someone introduce a resolution adopting the tentative budget for the Sunrise Key Neighborhood
Introduce.
District for 2022? Introduced. Please call the roll.
A resolution in the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, adopting the tentative budget of $141,730 for the Sunrise Key Neighborhood Improvement District for fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021, and ending September 30, 2022. Commissioner Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie?
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes. So a public hearing to adopt the final millage rate and budget will be held at 5:01 p.m. on September 13th, 2021 in the City Commission chambers at City Hall. That's 100 North Andrews Avenue here in Fort Lauderdale. Beautiful downtown Fort Lauderdale. And through communications media technology accessible through the city's website, which is www.fortlauderdale.gov. Okay, whew. Got through that one. Now, Budget 3. This is the first of two public hearings as required by law on the millage rates for the fiscal year 2022. The purpose of the hearing is to receive requests and comments regarding the city's millage rate and to explain any amendments thereto. The public hearing is now open, and the city manager will now present the tentative millage rate on which the fiscal year 2022 budget is based. Mr. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor, the fiscal year 2022 City of Fort Lauderdale tentative budget includes maintaining the current millage rate of 4.1193 and increasing the combined debt service millage from 0.2218 to 0.2613 mils. The recommended millage rate of 4.1193 exceeds the rollback rate of 3.9693 by 3.78%. The aggregate tentative millage rate, including the Sunrise Key Dependent District, is 4.1227, which results in an increase of 3.78% above the aggregate rollback rate of 3.9727 and is premised upon the following. Funding increases in wages and insurances, funding key commission priorities and community investment plan projects, maintaining a healthy fund balance. Increases to the fiscal year 2022 budget, general fund budget that require maintaining the millage rate at the same rate as the prior 14 years include: 1. Increase for contractual wage adjustments, $10.9 million. Increase in transfer to capital projects, $11.5 million. Increase in transfers to the CRA and sanitation funds, $2.0 million. Increase in capital outlay, $2.4 million. Increase in pension, insurance premiums, and taxes, $2.2 million. Mayor, that concludes my report.
Okay, this is the time for anyone in the public to speak or ask questions about the final millage rates. I have no one signed up to speak. Mr. Clerk, is there anybody that you have signed up to speak? No one additional. I hear a motion to close public hearing.
So move.
Second.
Moved, seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trent House.
Yes, and public hearing is now closed. So the recommended millage rate for all general city purposes, exclusive of debt service, will be 4.1193, which represents a 3.78% increase in the millage rate over the rollback rate of 3.9693 mils. The aggregate tentative millage rate, including dependent districts, is 4.1227, which results in an increase of 3.76% above the aggregate rollback rate of 3.9727 mils. The recommended millage rate for debt service for the 2015 general obligation refunding bonds is 0.0255. The recommended millage rate for the debt service for the 2011A general obligation bonds is 0.0275. The recommended millage rate for debt service for the city's voter-approved public safety bond is 0.1160. And the recommended millage rate for debt service for the city's voter-approved parks bond is 0.0923. Now, will someone please introduce a resolution adopting the tentative millage rates for the city of Fort Lauderdale fiscal year? Should that be 2022? Hello? Should that be 2022? That's a mistake.
Yeah, so there's two things we need to correct here, Mr. Mayor. That was what we were conferring about. You read in B, you read 3.76%. If we could read B again and then change the following question to 2022, that would be great.
All right, so fiscal year 2022, right? That's the
Correct.
resolution. Someone please introduce that resolution.
What about B?
Yeah, we need you to clarify B. If you'll just
Let's
reread
clarify
B again.
What is the percent?
3.78, and you read 3.76.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What do you have?
I have 3.78 here. This is correct. I don't know why my eye was blurry, I guess.
Oh, that's different. I thought maybe it was a mistake. Yeah, that's good.
It's my mistake. Sorry. So the aggregate tentative millage rate, including dependent districts, is 4.1227, which results in an increase of 3.78% above the aggregate rollback rate of 3.9727 mils. So that was my error, but the error here should be 2022, correct? Okay.
Correct.
All right, someone please introduce that resolution.
Introduce.
Introduced, please call the roll.
Well, we're going to talk about it or no?
What's that?
Can we talk about it or after we?
Oh,
Hold on.
sure, go ahead. Sure, go ahead.
No, I just want to ask Mr. Herbst, what's your level of comfortability? And if you don't feel like answering this question, I understand. But we've been holding holding on to this number for a long time. Me, I'd rather see this number change than assessments. Constantly on the backs of the ratepayers. But how do you feel about this number not changing? Just freestyle it.
So we were fortunate in the past year to have two things happen. One, we had a significant reimbursement from the federal government, which combined with the steps that were taken during the middle of the year to reduce our expenses allowed us to finish the year in a very strong position from a fund balance perspective. The second thing is we've had a lot of new construction come on board, and that's helped us maintain our financial position vis-a-vis the increases in personnel costs. I think at some point that is going to invert. We're going to have to consider a millage rate increase if we're going to be dealing with our ongoing increases in staffing costs and things of that nature. I think for this year, this is probably the last year you can realistically do this. As it
We'll
relates
cross that
to,
bridge when we get.
Yeah, but no. I don't want you to dismiss it with a joke because we just talked about my lack of vision. And when you look at this piece here, this is what, at least I know what I'm charged with in terms of looking down the road. I know we mentioned last commission meeting about fire needing 25 more people. Will we be able to staff those folks with this rate? I mean, we don't get all the nuts and bolts. I mean, we get a presentation, and as we sit with our city manager if we don't ask the right questions, I mean, he gives us the information.
All right, so it's a good question. So will this raise sufficient funds in our general fund to cover our strategic plans for our personnel needs, especially in our public safety department?
So what it does is it does fund, and I think what the commissioner is asking about is the 25 people that we currently have in the fire academy that are going to come out into the field. They are captured in the budget that is proposed and adopted with this millage rate proposed as well. There's always going to be requests for additional diversification, additional.
I don't want additional, because we dealt with diversification with the decree, if I'm not.
I meant diversification in discipline.
And then, but even when we got to that threshold, it was brought to our attention that we needed 25 more people, especially now with what's going on. And with this COVID running as rapid as it is now, we can get wiped out with 25 positions in the morning. And then if we didn't plan for it, I'm going to ask for reports too on all departments about how are we doing with COVID. So that's another topic for another day. But I want to make sure now that we have the additional 25, in addition to what Chief Kerr came up and explained to us last time about how we got those folks so expeditiously through the academy and did what we had to do. There was some equipment that was needed. There's some, and I'm not just talking about fire. I'm talking about across the board, as you mentioned, Mayor, in our public safety areas. But it's my understanding that we're borrowing equipment. I mean, I hear so much stuff. I mean, and if we're going to be number one on those sheets that you refer to in terms of ranking, and why are we borrowing equipment from number 15 and number 13, if that's a true statement? I could just be hearing things out there like I always do, but here's the budget time.
Hearing these things from?
Same place you hear them from. But we're at the budget, and if we need that, I want to make sure it's in there. And thank you, John, for that honest opinion.
Sure, and if I could too, I want to address the other thing you raised. So there's a philosophical difference between raising funding through your ad valorem rates, which are your property taxes, and raising money through assessments. Assessments are, by their very nature, regressive on our lower income residents because they're assessed on a flat rate across the board. So obviously a $300 fire assessment fee has a higher impact on a lower income individual than it does on a higher income individual. So this is an ongoing topic that I think is one that's discussed everywhere as to how you balance out assessments versus ad valorem. The other side of that is that when you're looking at ad valorem, it's going to impact our commercial, our non-homesteaded, and our homesteaded property differently. But these are really philosophical questions about how you get there. We've taken a position through the years that we're going to recoup some of our costs on a full cost basis through assessments. But again, that's not mandatory. It's a commission policy driven decision.
But even with ad valorem assessments or raising of the millage, those people have time to prepare for it, whether you're of the upper echelon or lower echelon. I know that, in a year I got to have $245 more for this fire assessment, which I vote no for too because it's an assessment. However, the rich and poor are paying it. This is why I brought this issue up, because this, in most cases, this is how you, do the heavy lifting, not with the constant assessments. However, we're here. I wanted to get that answer. I also wanted to make sure that we had the proper staffing moving forward because there's a different variant out there now with COVID, and we saw just last meeting how we had 30-something people over in DSD. They're affected. We buried a guy from DSD today, and I understand there's more issues out there concerning COVID, and sometimes, especially in policing and fire, I know for sure, proper utilities, if you have, a large number of people out, it's going to affect our output for services. So I just want us to be cognizant of that as we move forward, because I don't think we're going anywhere away from this COVID situation, especially with some of the behaviors that folks want to display in terms of not taking the necessary measures if it's not mandated. I don't want to run around saying I'm mandating anything. It should just be common sense. But it's going to take you losing a loved one or a friend to change your philosophy on politics. So thank you for answering those questions for me.
Okay. Any other comments from the commission? If not,
It was
Mr. Clerk,
introduced.
please, I believe it's been introduced already.
Yes.
Yes,
so-
I introduced it.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, adopting the tentative operating millage rate of 4.1193 and debt service millage rate of 0.2613 to be levied by the City of Fort Lauderdale for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021 and ending September 30, 2022. Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and I want to thank the city manager and his staff for being able to crunch numbers and sharpen pencils and do whatever you could to keep this city running as efficiently as it does, with providing the services that it can, and still maintaining the millage rate that we have, I believe, for the last 15 years. Yes, so
More records, more assessments, more assessments.
So, anyway, on to budget 4. The next item is the tentative 5-year community investment plan. This is the time for anyone in the public to speak or ask any questions about the tentative 5-year community investment plan. I have 2 people that signed up to speak. Do you have any more that signed up to speak? Anybody here in the audience? So let me begin with Leanne Barber, followed by Kevin Reynolds. Leanne, are you here? She is.
Yes, I am. Thank you so much.
Great, you have 3 minutes.
Yes, I'm wanted to speak on this tonight because we have had a lot of discussions about we've had lots of discussions about park impact fees, and I've had information since I became president of the Flagler Village Civic Association as to the amount of park impact fees that have been collected in Flagler Village and where they're being utilized. And I know that the city manager, Mr. Lagerbloom, and I have had some conversations back and forth about the discretion that the city has with respect to how the park impact fees are spent and where they're spent. But I guess I would really like to beg you, plead with you to consider spending more park impact fees within the proximity of where they're being collected, because the whole point of the park impact fees is to reduce the impact of overcrowding and creating a more urban environment in Flagler Village, and that we desperately need more green space and more natural space to offset all of the building and all the paving that's going on here. And that we would really appreciate you following what we think is our interpretation of the state statute, which says that they should be spent, that the park impact fees should be spent on creating amenities or benefits for the people that had collected, where the fees have been collected. And just as an example for us is Motif is an apartment building that just went up next door to me, 350 new families, probably 200 dogs there now. And they paid $800,000 in park impact fees, the developers did, which is reflected in the rent for those people that live in that building. But they have not received any amenities with respect to park. And so they're out walking their dogs. They're having a tough time finding a bit of green space. And I think that it creates more of a pressure on all of us within this urban village. So thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
Well, Leanne, I couldn't agree with you more, and maybe we should get an opinion from our city attorney as to how the ordinance now, or statute now requires us to spend those park impact fees. Mr.
Yeah, we're aware of it, and it's actually the first iteration was enacted or became effective July 2020, and then there was some iterations, also some amendments this year, but we're well aware of it. There's a rational nexus test that needs to take place, so you can't, you do have to have some connection to the development from which you're collecting impact
So that
fees.
now is those are the requirements, the parameters now with regard to the expenditure of parking. We can't shift them around the whole city like we used to, right?
Well, it depends because there are some gray areas. So, for example, I use the aquatic center as an example because that is a recreational facility. There's only one aquatic center in the city, so it does benefit everyone in the city. So there are some gray areas. It's not just look down the block and do something down the block. There are instances where there is a citywide impact that you'll be able to spend that park impact fee. But as we collect them, that analysis has to be done, and when that expenditure is made, that analysis needs to be done. And I believe the city manager is currently doing that.
Do you want to add to it?
Sure. No, that's correct. And there's some times when that rational nexus means proximity and others where I think it means citywide park system. So we don't have any real guidance on that at this point. We're well aware that the law has changed, and we'll do the best we can to spend those dollars in proximity. But to the city attorney's point, there's some things we only have one of. And so I think that they qualify sometimes for park impact fees that are collected citywide.
Okay.
And I think that's probably why they create these type of ordinances, so that we don't just say because we built it in our neighborhood, those funds are restricted. But when you say you're restricting something for public use, it could be anywhere in the city the way I read the ordinance or the interpretation of it, and not so much restrictive that it has to be in Flagler Village. We may want to build a central park that's contiguous or on the line of districts, and that money can be utilized as long as it's a public purpose. Am I correct?
Well, the way I understand, you're correct. I mean, if look, if we're going to spend, if there's new buildings going on, I think what Ms. Barber's talking about is you got all this new construction. Why aren't we seeing these impact fees being invested in our neighborhood? And why is the money being taken to other projects around the city?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a citywide kind of project like this, like Mr. Boileau indicated, like the aquatic center, those types of projects are eligible for these impact fees. But if it's a small pocket park in one corner of the city, we can't be using impact fees from Flagler Village to go, say, put in Riverland Road, that kind of thing. So, which we did.
But I think it's different. And what I want is clarity.
Yeah.
I think we can if we wanted to go to Holiday Park right now. And
Well, if we feel that Holiday
I'm
Park
saying.
is a park of regional importance, if it's a destination kind of park, maybe an argument can be made in that. That's what Mr. Boileau is saying.
That's correct. Mayor's correct.
But
So for a little pocket park,
because and help me.
Yes.
The reason why the developer does that is because he's taking up these blocks and building this concrete structure, and in lieu of, he's putting into a park fund
To give back.
for parks throughout the city, not necessarily parks within my own backyard.
No, that used to be the case, but now it has to be in your own backyard.
But that's not what they're saying.
no, that's correct. No, so you
Who's correct?
Before,
He? Yep, me? Who's correct?
I'm correct, of course. No, no. Previously, no. The mayor's correct. Previously, it was a fund that generally could be applied anywhere. The legislature now has made it more difficult for us to do that. So, as the city manager said, there's very little guidance because it's a new law. There hasn't been much litigation or any interpretation. But a good example of the mayor uses if there's a little pocket park in, let's say, District 4, you're not going to use impact fees from construction in District 1 that's going to just fund that particular little part because that really has no citywide impact.
Mayor,
Okay. Yes.
if I may, and
Yes, you
I
may.
understand, thank you, and I understand Leanne's point, because just remember, between the years roughly 1999 and 2007, all of the development that happened on the beach, all of that, and we used to scream all the time, all of those impact fees are going off the beach. They're not being used
That's
anywhere.
exactly what happened.
Exactly what happened. So I understand her point and I understand her frustration because that is the way it has always been done for the years. What I'd actually like to see is perhaps like a project that Leanne mentioned, Motif next door there. Maybe there's some way that we can get the developers to actually, when they're building a project like that, include some green space within the project. Wouldn't that be novel? Or something like that. But Leanne, the good news is we are all working so hard to create the most beautiful park in Flagler Village. So just get ready, it's coming. Thank you.
Why don't we tear down the Sapphire and make that a green space?
Let's not talk about that now.
I'm just saying, it's a great idea.
Actually,
And you get your money back.
Actually, the developer did provide a lot of green space around the buildings, probably more than any other building.
But you won't let me in that place. That's the problem. There's no public access.
Well, why would we let you in there?
You got the green space.
I understand, but not for you.
I'm next door.
Well, you use your own then.
Take it out of the parking.
Take it out. But didn't we already do that?
Kevin Reynolds. Kevin, are you out there?
Stop, Steve.
Kevin?
Stop it.
Mr. Reynolds? Were your questions answered, perhaps? Okay. You see him online?
Did he hang up?
I'm not logged in.
Okay. Wait. No? Yes? What is this? No. Okay.
No.
This is no, and what's yes?
When you see the nose, that's yes.
Yeah. Okay.
The nose pops up.
All right. There being no further public comment, is there a motion to close public hearing?
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and public hearing is now closed. Will someone please introduce a resolution adopting the tentative five-year community investment plan for the period beginning October 1st, 2021 and ending September 30th, 2022
Introduced.
for fiscal year, what is this?
Return on investment.
This is wrong, right? Yeah, so for fiscal year 2022, correct?
22?
They have
22?
2026.
Oh, wow. You guys need to have a dress rehearsal.
I think that Commissioner Glassman should have edited this.
Everything else he does, I'm so shocked and surprised.
Yeah.
I didn't
Taken aback.
I don't see the mayor's scripts. You'll have to share those with me.
But that is true.
All before.
Hey, who types those? Who types your scripts?
The deep state.
That might be the issue. Because I always have the right dates, right, Steve?
I think so.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. You stand to be corrected. You are doing a good job at editing, and we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Mayor, get those to him.
Okay.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, tentatively approving and adopting a five-year community investment plan for the period beginning October 1, 2021, and ending September 30, 2026, tentatively appropriating the portion of the community investment plan for the period beginning October 1, 2021, and ending September 30, 2022, tentatively reappropriating the unspent community investment plan project balances at the end of the fiscal year ending September 30, 2021, for the period beginning October 1, 2021, and ending September 30, 2022, and providing for severability and an effective date. Commissioner Glassman?
So,
Yes.
hold on a second. Question. Chris, now what does this mean?
This means that you are tentatively adopting the community investment plan, which
Add that part.
the five-year plan, and in certain years carries forward funding, and in certain years adds new projects as funding in the future out years.
So if a project's not funded in those 5 years, it could lose its funding?
If it's in the CIP and funded, it could technically lose its funding if the commission chose to reappropriate the dollars attached to it to something else. Yes.
So if for some reason I'm just an absent-minded person and I'm not paying attention to it and the 5 years expire, what happens to that money?
If the project's not complete, the capital funds are nice because they can carry over into future fiscal years.
To another project?
Either same project would be our preference, but they could carry over to a different project as well if that was the preference.
Because a new commission could come and wipe out my projects, right?
A new commission can come in and
We've got
do anything they want to do.
No, I'm saying this for a reason. This is the first thing I learned when I got here. Watch my CIP dollars and make sure those projects get done. So I'm very good at it, but I got to train the next person.
Well, every commission can change it.
I know that.
Yeah.
That was for the public. I'm in.
Okay, yes or no?
Yes.
And Commissioner Glassman, you
You're
said-
really mean.
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes. The public hearing to adopt the final five-year community investment budget will now be held at 5:01 p.m. on September 13th, 2021, in the City Commission chambers and through communication media technology accessible through the city's website, which is www.fortlauderdale.gov. The City Commission chambers are at 100 North Andrews Avenue in Fort Lauderdale. Okay, last item, Budget 5. This is the first of two public hearings as required by law on the City of Fort Lauderdale budget for fiscal year 2022. The purpose of the hearing is to receive requests and comments regarding the city's budget and to explain the budget and any amendments thereto. The public hearing is now open. City Manager will now present the tentative budget. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you. The fiscal year 2022 City of Fort Lauderdale tentative budget includes maintaining the same millage rate of 4.1193 and fire assessment rate of $311 per single residential unit. The tentative budget is premised on the following: funding increases in wages and insurances, funding key commission priorities and community investment plan projects, maintaining a healthy fund balance. I would now like to present to you the adjustments to the fiscal year 2022 budget that have been made since the submission of the July 6, 2021 proposed budget. I'm going to read these, and I'm happy to talk about them in more of a conversational tone. Increases in revenues totaling $2,660,938 to account for updated state revenue estimates. Adjustments have been made to the general fund expenditures, including increase for salary adjustments in the Office of the Mayor and City Commission and City Attorney's Office, $40,006. Increased funding for the World Council on City Data ISO 37120 certification agreement, $1,500. $15,000. Increased funding for fleet overhead maintenance and replacement, $7,736. Increased funding for office space rent and other operational expenses, primarily due to the updated Tower 101 lease agreement, $18,200. Decreased funding for 2022 grade crossing maintenance due to an updated field inspection list from the Florida East Coast Railway, a deduct of $116,500. Increase for security guard services at City Hall due to updated security guard services agreement, $13,500. Increased transfer to the community investment plan for the Riverwalk Seawall Replacement Northside project, $2,543,496. Let me restate that, $2,543,496. Increased funding for the U.S. Conference of Mayors, $12,500. Increased funding for the purchase and operating costs of a new boat for the Community Inspection Division, $47,000. Increased funding for the replacement of a microfilm conversion machine, $80,000. These revenue and expenditure adjustments bring us to a fiscal year 2020 tentative general fund budget of $401,085,336. Changes to the other funds since the submission of the FY22 proposed budget include the Beach Business Improvement District fund budget was increased by $200,000. The new tentative budget is $1,216,427. Sanitation fund budget was increased by $700. The new tentative budget is $30,788,818. Parking fund budget was decreased by $174,499. The new tentative budget is $24,444,147. The stormwater fund budget was decreased by $266,519. The new tentative budget is $29,446,693. The self-insured health fund budget was increased by $12,771. The new tentative budget is $38,590,037. The Arts and Science District Garage Fund budget was increased by $95,062. The new tentative budget is $1,446,969. That concludes my initial report of the fiscal year 22 tentative budget.
Thank you.
Chris, in this budget, I noticed that in this line item, the fire assessment fee. Would there be
Same as last year?
I know, but we voted on that separately. What is it? Is this grouped in this year?
Second public hearing.
I'll be able to do it,
Right. We only have 5 items on tonight's agenda, but you'll see the next agenda for the second
so I'll
public.
be able to. Okay, thank you.
Okay, this is the time for anyone in the public to speak or ask any questions regarding the tentative budget. I have one person who signed up to speak. Bonnie Clearwater, you're good? And Joe Cox, I believe, also called to tell me he was okay on it. So,
And Mayor, I do have a question for
let's
Chris.
close public
Oh,
hearing.
no problem.
So do I hear a motion to close public
So
hearing?
move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and public hearing is now closed. Any comments, Commissioner?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So, Chris, when we first started the budget discussion, I had submitted a list of about 10 arts and cultural organizations, roughly to the tune total for the 10, about $100,000. Can you tell me where that would be in the process and how I would go about making sure that we were able to include that, or at least ask my colleagues how they felt about it?
And that's, I think, where we would need to be with it. If I take you to Exhibit 2 of what was published, that shows the difference of the revenue increases as well as the expenditures that increased and decreased in one circumstance. At the last meeting, I couldn't gather consensus or unanimity on addition of more nonprofits. So it's not in at this point, but if we get commission direction to include that list, then we will prepare for that, and you'll see it as a proposed change when it comes forward for final adoption.
Is
Well-
that something you're seeking now?
So we're going to add?
Is that something you're seeking now from us?
It's something that what I would hope for is that by the end of the night tonight, that we vote on what is presented, and not tinker with it here from the dais. But if you all direct me to make some changes between tonight and the 13th, I'll bring back a different budget on the 13th.
Changes to the,
To the cultural,
To some additional cultural and arts funding.
is this the nonprofits we're talking about again?
Yes.
he submitted a list asking.
I
the
thought
city-
we said last time we weren't gonna do this.
Well,
Well, how's it coming back up again?
The time that it would come up is between the two hearings.
Yeah, but we
That's
said
when
in the last meeting, and we had our budget advisory there, that we weren't gonna change anything we were doing. So I'm asking, why is this up here again?
because the commissioner just asked it to be.
Well, because I brought it forward, actually, one of our first meetings.
I remember when it came back up,
Yeah.
but I thought we agreed that we weren't gonna do it.
I never heard that,
It
no.
was a consensus, I thought,
A consensus not to do it? I didn't hear
not
that.
to add. Am I correct? Maybe I'm wrong.
I didn't hear that.
I kind of think you're right. I mean,
I thought we did that.
I thought we.
So now it's back up here again, and this is what bothers me with staff, and I'm not blaming
I think
anybody.
Commissioner McKenzie's right. I think we kind of said, the Budget Advisory Board came back with their recommendations, city manager came back with his recommendations, and the list was
Basically closed.
complete.
That's not my recollection. I mean, if someone could show me the minutes of that, that'd be great, but
Well, why
that's
don't
not
you
my
bring it up at the
recollection.
second- Why don't you bring it up at the second reading?
Right.
And then, so we can have a more definitive list of what.
Yeah, because
That would be
if-
great.
if
Could
we do
you-
that, I just don't want your arts and culture. I would like for the Northwest Federated Women's Club to get more money, because even with them,
Right.
probably the last commission, we tried to give them more money because they got matching dollars. But we stuck to a number, and we kept moving forward. So I mean, if we're going to make these adjustments, then I need to be able to put my 4 or 5 nonprofits in the pot too, and not just arts and sciences, which I don't have a problem with any of it.
Right.
I have a problem with processes.
I understand. Well, I have always done what I thought was following the process. I brought that list forward. I gave it to the city manager. I'm wondering where it is. I've never seen us all discuss it.
But it was after the fact, though, because
No, it's never been after the fact. No,
based on what I think.
No.
So can we address it at the next reading? And,
Yeah. It's never been after the fact. Chris, you know when I
I've got a
gave-
list. I've got a list, and I've got dollar
Yeah,
figures that
if
go
you
with
get us the list.
Yeah,
I'm
and I-
happy to provide that
And if
even ahead of
anybody
time.
has
Just for
list.
clarification, I'm not trying to rain on your parade. If we took what the budget advisory board was saying and said, this is it, then you came back at a later date and said, I want this.
Well, wait
Then-
a second.
so-
Wait, no.
That's-
Let me just explain something. Well, no, I want to just clarify something.
No, I wanna-
The Budget Advisory Board did not recommend funding for several arts and other groups that
And
we
I
ended
get
up
it.
funding. So that's not. We didn't follow that to the law, to the letter. We actually added. Chris added, and we did make additions after the fact.
Because we put our 2 cents in, so to speak.
No, so to speak. While I'm still
So
speaking.
I got 2 cents too I want to put in, if we're going to allow this to happen.
You put your 2 cents in.
Yeah,
you
put your 2 cents in.
Between now and the next hearing,
Yeah.
we'll be able to.
Exactly. We've been having these discussions now. When did we start talking about budget?
Yeah, but I was told by the Brad chair that, in my district, they did a lot of extra heavy lifting, but when you look at the pie, I'm getting a couple thousand, you guys are getting,
Your
the bigger
community-
portion of the pies, and
Citywide.
hold on, and basket gifts were not a priority. However, who's to say that those basket or food giveaways aren't critical needs for my district. So
bring
if that's the case,
So make the list.
I would like to make a list.
Make the
submit it
list.
to.
I wish you did a
Yeah.
while ago. I mean,
But I
made
try to
my
respect
list
the
a long time
process.
ago. No, well, I did respect the process.
Yeah,
and I
but when the numbers came out, you came back and said, "Hey, listen, let's put some more over here."
no, that's not true.
Well, wait a minute.
Not
wait.
how it went.
That's
It
a
is true.
prerogative of any
The numbers
commissioner.
didn't come out because the numbers were always changing. We added
weren't always changing.
$500,000 to one organization.
Which I disagree with that. But I disagree with
That
that.
all happened without a big discussion amongst all of us.
But all fairness, it got started because we were saying, how do we make it more inclusive? That's how we got here.
Okay.
Okay. And then we came up with something,
Right.
and now we're doing something different again. So I want to play too.
I wish you would play. I'd love to
Yeah, let's play it.
contemplate whoever you would submit it. I would love to see that list.
Mind that the Budget Advisory Board submits advisory opinions.
Right.
Not, we, the
You're telling me that?
commissioners have the prerogative to make any amendments or additions. And
Okay.
that's the process. So the process is right. And so the commissioner is wondering, why did it not appear in the public hearing tonight? So let it come up with the list, submit it
Right.
to the city manager, make it an attachment. If you have anything that you want to amend,
Well, absolutely.
city manager, and we'll decide up or down at that next hearing.
Okay.
Right. No, that would be great. As I said, I submitted that list months ago, and I'm disappointed that it's gotten to this point where I have not seen that list.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
point made.
Thank you.
Because we came to a consensus that we weren't going to add anything. That's why you didn't see it.
No, we did not. We did not come to that
All right,
consensus.
already.
We did not.
All right.
But you better watch your walk.
You show me the minutes where we came to that consensus.
I'm walking to the car with you. I parked next to you.
Show me where you came to
It's
that
on,
consensus.
okay? It's
Park
on
in your
tonight.
correct spot, please.
I'll see you in the
Thank
parking lot.
Okay, a tentative total of all funds budget for the city of Fort Lauderdale is $897,744,24.
Mayor, if we have additional questions, when should we ask?
Yeah.
Are you finishing the vote?
Yeah.
Can we,
Let me read this.
okay. thank
After we approve Steve's changes.
On the various operations of the city of Fort Lauderdale for the fiscal period beginning October 1st, 2021 and ending September 30th, 2022. Now, will someone please introduce the resolution adopting the tentative budget, and then we'll have discussion.
Introduced without the Commissioner Glassman's item.
Well, he didn't introduce an item. He just asked where it was. Okay, so it's been introduced. Now, Vice Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I'm just trying to understand the process too from today to our next meeting. So I understand the additional changes Commissioner Glassman will bring. Chris, where did we end up with the firefighters? I'm sorry. I know we are talking about the additional positions. Are we considering those or not? And if so, how many positions are we considering?
The additional positions are not considered in what's presented to you tonight. When we consider additional positions, I'd like to do it to coincide with the SAFER grant cycle, which is a grant cycle that provides for funding for at least the first several years as we look towards that funding. The complement I think of in the fire rescue department that's proposed in this budget is 486 full-time equivalent employees.
Okay, so the SAFER grant would fund how many additional firefighters?
It could fund several. I mean, there's no exact number, but if we're going to look towards funding additional general fund positions, I don't see how I can do that without bringing forward a request to raise the millage rate. And so we will.
So go back to what I said. Is this the same issue?
Wait. Is she finished?
Kind of, yeah.
No,
Please,
is it the
please
same-
chime in.
Is it the same item?
I believe so, the additional firefighter personnel?
Yeah, but you when I asked it, you said
I was trying to
Yes.
I was trying to clarify the question.
we
you
were
were
trying to
asking.
clarify, and I
Yeah.
walked away with the understanding that we
20
had it clarified.
We have 25 people in the fire academy right now that are not in the field.
That's not what
Those
I'm
are the
talking.
25 you're talking about coming into the field because
No.
we're still going to have vacancies.
I'm talking about the additional bodies we asked for last time we had Chief Kerr up here. We talked about the ones that were going through the academy. Which
Correct. Those are
you're
still
talking
in.
about. But then there was an additional 16 to 25 that we needed. That was my question earlier.
And that is not in. That would be an additional $2
And I
to
voted.
$3 million.
I voted with the wrong information. I think you knew what I was asking.
I was trying to clarify what you were
But
asking.
don't try to clarify. Just, hey, Commissioner, hey, stand up. Throw something at me. I walked away with an understanding that they had what they needed in this budget to move forward. Had it not been for the commissioner restating the question, There's no funds for the additional. We already knew the night that Chief Kerr stood up here a month ago that the academy folks were coming through and there was some additional vacancies that like we always have in any department that aren't filled, but we still needed, what's the number? Can somebody give me the number?
I think we need
16.
to, I think we need to fill the positions we have and then contact.
Yeah, but that's different, Chris. That's not what I'm asking you. I'm talking about these 16 positions. I think you are too. Am I correct?
We did discuss that. That's what I was asking about.
You asked about the 16.
The 16.
Forget everything else. The 16, are they in that budget?
No.
And what do we need to do to make that happen? Because I
about
voted,
$2 million in the general.
I voted,
What we don't want to do.
I voted thinking we could get those 16 people. If not, Mayor, we need to go back and readdress that item to get these 16 people. That's what I voted for.
You'll have an opportunity to change your vote at the next.
I don't want to change my vote. I want to make sure that we get the 16.
Well, we don't
they
have
need.
$2 million on the table right now sitting there to be able to cover that.
We didn't have there's a lot of times we don't have money to.
Well, I'm just telling you, we don't have it. It's not in the budget.
So how do we get the money?
We would have to find in the general fund sufficient funds to
Can we find it between now and the next meeting? Because it's
stop
not
doing
like we have just started talking about this. And I'm
Now
sorry.
you know how I feel, but that wasn't budgeted. This was not advertised.
It was the nonprofits.
We have to add
Additional.
that before the next meeting because this was, correct me if I'm wrong, this was not advertised with that in it. Don't we have to
But
do what was
we
advertised?
made an amendment tonight, right here, $1 million.
You could certainly make amendments between the two hearings. I'm just saying that the amendment that we're
we
talking about
can
is
amend anytime. It still was publicly advertised for a budget hearing.
Okay.
We could amend.
I'm fine with that. I'm agreeing with you. I'm okay.
Because we amended arts too. We just took some money from $1 million something from somewhere to do something with the
Can
the
you be a
federal
little bit more
courthouse.
specific?
But my point is, we can amend. So I do not want to move forward because I asked the question about the additional people. Now, how you gave it to me, I didn't misunderstand it because I understood it to be that I was getting the additional people.
Well, then you can vote no against the
I don't want to vote no. I want the people.
I understand that, but right now they're not budgeted in this budget. And you can have a private conversation with the city manager to figure out a way to come up with another $2 million.
Can you find $2 million between now and next meeting?
I can unfund something, sure.
Okay. I would like to see that. I mean, I think we need 16 people. I mean, am I saying something wrong?
You're not saying anything wrong. You asked the question, they answered it, and the reality is that those 16.
We had an emergency meeting to come up with $1 million missing dollars in Rio Vista. We had an emergency meeting. We're talking about public safety here. I'm not upset. I'm just furious that we're going to say, let's come back and let's have a private conversation with the city manager. It's not like I didn't have this conversation in the last meeting when Chief Kerr stood up there.
Chris, could you give us at the next meeting options for what could be defunded to find the money for 16 firefighters?
Well, Commissioner Sorensen, just
Hold on.
before we
I'm asking Chris.
before we answer that question, Chief Kerr, could you come up to the podium? Is there a podium? Yeah. Could you see if the microphone is on?
Can you, no, yes, it's on, right?
Can we, okay. So when you submitted your budget request to the city manager, you submitted a budget request based on personnel and equipment needs that you feel that will sustain the department for the fiscal year 2022. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you feel that the complement of personnel that you submitted will sufficiently protect the city based on the estimates that you provided to him. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, the 16 vacancies that we are hearing about, are those required to keep the city safe, or are you saying to the city commission tonight that you can't keep the city safe unless you have those 16 positions filled?
So those 16 additional positions are not to fill any vacancies. Those are to add a complement to our existing staff personnel. And those 16 positions, we will always keep the city safe. So I can't ever say that by not getting those positions, the city is not safe. It will always be safe. Those 16 positions are to help minimize overtime, But the most important part is that it gives us the additional staff we need to maintain what we call minimum staffing. And by forcing overtime on individuals, we are compromising their wellness and their safety and well-being. And that's why we have asked for additional positions.
All right, so you asked for additional funding, and the city manager said it was not available?
That's correct.
Okay, but you have those 60, you have new recruits that are on standby in case there is attrition, and you want to be able to fill vacancies, no?
No, so we currently have 24 individuals in what we call Cadet Academy,
Okay,
and those will fill 24 vacancies that exist in the department today.
okay, so does that help?
So it won't add. So in addition to the vacancies, if we're gonna fill them, we need 16 more bodies to take the pressure off of this overtime allocation to a person who should be resting and not having overtime, so our department runs efficiently. Right now, we're taking a skeleton outfit already, and we're saying, now go do another shift. We're gonna pay you overtime, but that's not the way you really should handle it. You should really have those bodies so that we can provide what we need and have well-rested folks coming and going between shifts so the department can run efficient. I think we just have the best when it comes to our police and our fire, that whether we have enough or not enough, we're going to make it happen. It doesn't make it right, because constantly we're coming to this commission to ask for amendments for overtime, because we've gone over what you budgeted for, because we didn't know that, we were going to have all these COVID outbreaks or what have you. You don't know when an emergency is going to occur. You don't know when that Cat 5 or Cat 4 is going to come. We had some of our fire folks, I think, up in Louisiana this past week. But that's what we do with other departments. We borrow equipment. We do anything we have to do to survive. But do we need to borrow? Do we need to beg? Why can't we just allot, since we're doing a budget right now?
Would you agree to increase the fire assessment fee, $311 to what it takes?
If that would get me,
It's too late. We can't. That would not be a funding source for what you're talking about.
right, but that's another assessment to the people, instead of us standing up right now saying, you know what, we need 16 firefighters. Let's bump this rate up to 2.1110 or whatever it would take to get there. We need to do something.
Chief, how much would we save in overtime if we funded the 16 positions?
I don't know if I have that exact amount. It probably varies on a large number of things. It wouldn't eliminate overtime, but it would minimize it. But again, I think the really important thing too is that it saves on the wear and tear of the personnel.
Sure. No, I appreciate that also, but I'm just trying to say
Okay.
from a budget perspective, maybe it's not a $2 million bump, because we will save money also in terms of not paying for overtime next year.
And I would have to leave that to the money experts, either Laura Reese or
Yeah,
Paul.
we've
They have better
we've
able
tried to do that analysis, and I don't think that there's a net there.
So it's just a philosophical question. I mean, I do believe that chief responsibility of government is for public safety and reasonable water bills. But besides that, we're losing in the water bills. So maybe, I don't know.
Chris, when you say there's not a net, when you say there's not a net there, what does that mean? I mean, net positive, but what would be the savings?
And that's the question she asked. What is there? Has
So
anybody done a net analysis, and we don't seem to have that number?
Yeah, let me just let Laura say it.
Yeah, so good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. The department, when they submit the request, they indicate what it's for, what they're asking for, and what any offsets are. So that $2 million is a net number. So after adding all the positions and taking off overtime, the net impact for year 2 is $2 million. For year 1, it was a little bit less than that.
Could we still apply for the SAFER grant while we possibly appropriate funds and then maybe we reimburse ourselves or have less of a hit?
I think the order that has to happen is to make application first. So that would come in the form of a future budget amendment as opposed to as a part of the adoption of the annual budget.
Correct. We'd have to adopt the annual budget, but we could get reimbursed like we do on a lot of projects. We could get reimbursed. We're eligible to still apply for that grant.
Yeah, no, what I'm saying is I don't think that the grant can supplant. That's typically the standard. And so the positions could not exist at the time the grant is applied for, so they don't supplant those existing positions.
Well, what if we just appropriate the positions, but they don't quite exist until after we apply for
They
the grant?
they exist as you create them.
Trying. Okay. Anybody else have any?
Even like all those empty spots we have now, we still have to allocate money for those.
That's correct.
They're not filled, but the money's there.
That's why my suggestion is we work towards becoming fully staffed, and if there continues to be a need.
But Chris, I don't agree with that. I mean, it sounds
Then
good.
I'll-
You sound real good, but we got a public safety issue here. And I know we can find $2 million somewhere. And I've seen us find it for other things. I know we can find it. I just think this is one of those things that we don't want to find. I really do. In my heart, that's what I believe.
I don't think that's
Okay,
true.
let's move on. Any further questions?
Do we have, just for clarity purposes, do we have direction from the commission as to?
Oh, my direction's been clear.
Wait, let him finish. Say it again.
No, I just, we know what's been discussed, but do we have direction? Because we're going to come to a next meeting, a next hearing where we're going to adopt a budget. So what kind of direction
Can
are
we
we
get a
getting
consensus?
as to, are we adding those 16 positions and defunding something for 2 million?
Well,
Or
I think that,
Get a consensus to move forward to look for it
Right.
by the next meeting.
look,
Yes or no?
Well, you have to adopt a budget at the next meeting.
my feeling is that the chief has indicated that the budget request that she has made includes sufficient funding for both personnel and equipment to keep our city safe. She said that. It would be nice to have more people working. It would help relieve some of the stress in terms of overtime and so forth, but it's not necessary in order to keep our city safe. The police department can say the same thing. The city manager's office could say the same thing. Every department could say the same thing. If we had more people working for us, it would take less stress off the people who work here already. So that can be said with regard to any department.
But that's not true, Mayor, because
Well, let me finish.
they don't
So
dial 911 for
so
them. They dial 911 for life safety
they don't
reasons.
dial 911. Sometimes they dial my phone number.
And
So
you're going to save a life?
Sometimes they say
Well,
it's a life
if you
and
get to
death
2 million.
I get calls.
But I think you
Anyway,
just restated what she said differently. Oftentimes, directors are put in very difficult positions, especially when a manager says, "Let's have a balanced budget." You know, they're going to say, "This is what it's going to take to run my department." I'm not speaking for her. I'm speaking just in general because I've been there before. And when I asked for the extra 16 bodies, or I asked for the extra duffel bag, we can't afford that.
Well, it's not like $2 million just sitting there on the shelf waiting.
How are we going to pay for the Rio Vista Park?
There's not that much fat.
We had a special meeting for Rio Vista. We're going to come up with $1 million for that. A special meeting.
Yeah, but guess what?
This is life safety.
It comes out of different funds, and you know that.
But
Sources are used to pay for things. You know,
Mayor, I disagree.
park
I
equipment.
respectfully disagree with you.
Well, you don't have to disagree or agree with me. As a fact is a fact.
16 people we're looking for.
Okay, you made your statement. You made your point.
So do we have a consensus to come back?
I
with
don't agree with that.
But you got to survey it. You got, as a mayor, to say,
I don't agree with it. So, Commissioner Sorensen, do you want us to ask the city manager to find $2 million to be able to fund 16 additional personnel for the fire department?
I'm comfortable with the city manager coming back and saying, to find this 2 million, here's what we would have to do as a city. We'd have to defund this, or we'd have to cut this, or so forth. And I'm happy to hear that and have that discussion, Mayor.
Okay, why don't we do that?
so no, but got to get a consensus. That's one. What about
Well,
you,
if that's
Steve?
what you want.
So I'm 2.
Well, isn't that
That's not a consensus.
whatever you say? Isn't that what we want?
No, I'm not a dictator like you. You try to shut it down.
Shut it down.
I'm not trying to shut anything
did.
down. Have I tried to shut you down tonight? I could have
So
shut
you try to shut it down. Not, I mean, you can't shut me down because I won't allow it. Now, we need another one. Give me that.
Commissioner, Vice Mayor, what are your thoughts?
I would like to be able to look at options and
Okay.
discuss
So
at a later
if you could
meeting
please
what we should
provide
do.
options.
Hey,
Another
what am I,
pirate.
chopped liver? Can I have an opinion? Yeah.
This is the holidays.
Thank you. This is the holidays. You know, I had some excellent chopped liver.
Happy New Year, by the way.
Thank you, huh? Pumperdale's, great chop liver. Okay, listen. So I am in favor of seeing options, but I have one question because I just want some clarity on this. Were we able to fill all of the positions? Were we able to fill the 16 positions? I mean, how are we doing
No, it
with
was
filling
20-something
positions?
positions.
24.
24
Yeah, so we currently have 24 that are in the academy that will be graduating on October 21st. The additional 16 positions, if they were funded, we have a list from which we could hire, and then they would have to go through Cadet Academy as well. Does that answer
They're
your
really not ready to be hired.
Well, that's what I wanted a little clarity on, but I am willing to say, yes, let's hear the options. I think it's
Okay.
important to hear the
Fair enough.
Okay.
Right.
So having
What
said
about
that,
you?
the resolution has been introduced, and so I ask you to please call the roll.
What's that?
No, because they're approving the tentative budget. Any changes will come at the second one, so they have to approve the tentative budget.
Right.
But correct me if I'm wrong, did we already set the maximum on the millage rate?
have.
That's what I thought. We have already.
Village rate's already
See,
set. The fund
yes.
assessment fee is already set.
Right.
See,
We cannot change that.
but hold on.
Correct, but right.
It's just
Well,
expenditure.
I'm
But let's-
saying that because Commissioner McKenzie before said if we need to raise the millage rate, but we can't raise
Yeah,
the
but here's my problem. Here's my whole problem with the process. When I asked the question, I asked it with the same ingredients, in addition to. He was trying to correct me, he said. So when I voted with the information that I had 16 additional,
What did you vote on that you?
the millage rate.
The millage rate you voted on already.
No, I asked the question.
You voted on it at the previous meeting.
But I asked the question because we had Chief Kerr say the same thing she said last time, right there at that
You
podium.
can't change the millage rate tonight anyway.
Listen, okay, let's forget about that. I want $2 million for 16 people. So we can play with words all night long.
That's your opinion, and we'll see if the city manager has viable options. If they're not viable,
Then we'll just throw public safety out the window.
we're not throwing public safety.
Yes, we are.
I think that's so inflammatory and
Well, your remarks were very inflammatory.
chief that says that we're living in a safe city,
You said we'll do what we can. We'll never let you not be safe.
making things up.
You made them up.
Okay. All right, please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, adopting and approving the tentative budget of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021 and ending September 30, 2022, which includes a budget for general fund, water and sewer, central, regional wastewater funds, debt service fund, self-insured health benefits fund, community redevelopment agency fund, sanitation fund, parking fund, building fund, central services fund, vehicle rental fund, city property and casualty insurance fund, stormwater fund, airport fund, housing and community development fund, project management fund, cemetery system fund, arts and science district garage fund, cemetery perpetual care fund, beach business improvement district fund, school crossing guard fund, nuisance abatement fund, Sunrise Key neighborhood improvement district fund, and police confiscation funds, tentatively adopting and approving the City of Fort Lauderdale personnel complement and the enterprise fund return on investment policy for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021 and ending September 30, 2022, and providing an effective date. Commissioner Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorensen,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Moritas,
Yes.
Mayor Trentels.
Yes, and the public hearing to adopt the final budget will be held at 5:01 PM on September 13th, 2021, in the City Commission and through the communication media technology accessible through the city's website on Chambers. I don't know who wrote this. On Chambers at City Hall, 100 North Andrews Avenue, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. The city's website again is www.fortlauderdale.gov. Any further business of this commission?
I just have a question for the city attorney. This is the first reading of the budget, right?
Yes.
Okay, what other meeting we had to vote on the millage rate?
Oh, can I defer to Ms. Reese?
I mean, I know we discussed it, but I'm saying, what other meeting did I have an
You set the
opportunity
millage rate in
to
July.
vote on the millage rate? Because I brought it up during that item, the millage rate, about this, and I asked staff a question, and my question never changed. So when the chair says I had a chance to do it earlier, I want to make sure I was awake at that meeting, or I was at that meeting. 'Cause this thing says first budget reading. And this is not my first rodeo. And this is where you make amendments and you adjust things. And when I realized that the city manager was trying to correct me because that's not what he intended to give me, I wanted to correct the wrong then. But see, as a chair, we have an ordinance where you're the person that governs the meeting. And there's ways with Robert's rules to go back and correct things that might have slid under or been overlooked or misinterpreted or misreceived or miscommunicated. There are ways to correct that before we close a meeting of this magnitude on something that's detrimental. So I wanted to make sure that I have exhausted every opportunity I can with Robert's rules, our own ordinances, legal opinions, and professional staff that we've hired to bring a budget to us. And I am speaking not to the chair, but to my legal eagle, to my city manager. Did I miss that opportunity? Did I miss that opportunity?
Yes.
Yes.
How so?
Because we set, now you're speaking to the chair, the maximum millage rate was set at our first meeting.
No.
It was.
July 6th.
But this is the first reading where I can make adjustments.
Did the answer to your question?
I can't make adjustments tonight.
Not to the millage rate, to the budget.
But in July, and I'm gonna let you finish in a second. In July, did we not have the same questions about what we needed?
We had discussions about.
Correct. There's always
So when you brought it here, it just fell on deaf ears.
always things that end up in the proposed budget and always things that are
So
bigger than the budget.
And maybe I can help you, Mayor. Hold on a second. So maybe there's no need for you to go and find $2 billion because I missed that window. Is that what everyone's saying? We missed the window?
No, I'm going to go take a look.
Is that right?
But I think what's going to happen, I'm just going to be real honest with you all. I think what's going to happen is my phone's going to ring tomorrow morning and police is going to want $2 million. And
Chris, let me just say something to you. I want you to always be honest with me. And I'm sorry you haven't been being honest since you said, let me just be honest with you.
He's being very.
that's just what I'm trying to.
But we know that. I know in collective bargaining, all sorts of things are going to happen. But today we're talking about the first call we get for these COVID folks right now. We're missing bodies. John, you had something to add to this?
I do. I'm going to take a slightly different position than what the city manager is saying. So you have previously adopted a tentative millage.
Tentative.
That is not a permanent millage. Tonight, you adopted the millage. You could have changed the millage tonight. It would have required re-advertising if you had voted to change the millage tonight, but that you always have the opportunity to change the millage at this meeting tonight. You could have done it. It would have required re-advertising, which is expensive, happens infrequently, but you could have done that.
I thought so, but thank you for the clarification. And Stephen Glassman even said it too earlier, so thank you for that, having that knowledge. Not so much just to dismiss me and who I am. Mayor, you can close the meeting. We're done, right?
I don't know. You're not.
Just for the record, though, it would be just not to
sucked a lot of air out of the room tonight, but
Not-
that's okay.
not to disagree. I'm not disagreeing with the auditor, but I think it's more than re-advertisement. There's a whole recalculation that has to be done.
And I
There's
get that.
and the Department of Revenue gets involved. So you can technically do it, but it takes a long time
And
for you to
we
be able
have
to do.
to send out all the notices to every.
Yes.
Yeah, the trim
Yes.
notices have already been sent out.
You have to renotice everybody. You
All
have
the
to do-
trim notices with the county.
So if we had to do it, it can be done. But the
Right.
the consequences of doing it are expensive and would be disruptive. And
Not disruptive,
And
exhausting.
I think we can live with 4.1193. We should live within our budget. And I think that
Really?
yes,
Really?
yes.
So how are we going to pay for the park in Rio Vista if we're living within our budget? How are we going to pay for something that we didn't budget? How are we going to do that?
I will repeat what I said before, that there are different funds that supply the money for different projects. And as you know, we have a parks bond,
And we have,
which is a separate source of money than the general fund.
which we would have had to approve that money to do that park, am I correct? Ahead of time.
We have,
But we had a special meeting to figure it out. All I'm asking is for a special chance, a
What is this?
special opportunity to come back next meeting
What is
and
this problem?
find 16 people.
what is this
That's all I'm
problem you
asking.
have with Rio Vista? Why do you have this thing about? Rio-
Well, it's fresh in my mind, that's all.
Okay.
Nothing against Rio Vista. I like Rio Vista.
And Rio Vista likes you.
Yes, okay.
Yes.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.